Hi, this is Howard Nima, and you're listening to, or I should say you're watching, Truth Talk News, and this is a Truth Talk report. I think this is critical information that I have to get out to the masses as soon as possible. 30 major U.S. companies spend more on lobbying than taxes. Well, I talk about this every week on We Are Change, now with my co-host, Vinny Be the Truth, on Fridays 1 to 3, and Saturdays 3 to 5 on informedradio.com. You can also watch this broadcast weekly here, live streamed on 24/7 Truth Talk News at livestream.com/Truth Talk News. There's 24/7 truth information. The material will change and fluctuate. There'll be various information from other people other than myself. I'm going to be integrating some other videos, and famous people such as William Cooper and others will be integrated into this broadcast. So this is a little bit of an announcement as well as talking about things that I constantly talk about since I've started going on the air, which was, I believe, the 7th of October, 2001, my first broadcast with Informed Radio, who reach out to literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are hear our broadcasts on a daily basis. It is a large network that has reached, we have people that are calling in from various countries, truth seekers looking for, to spread information about their culture, about what's going on over where they are, in Australia, for example, and other areas. But I'm digressing, as I always do. We have to get this message out. So the more people that are listening and watching right now, please do something. You have to understand. This isn't some sort of like a fad thing, or some sort of like these people are crazy. Don't pay. This is life or death, and we don't really have a choice. We either be slaves and have the kind of servitude that Aldous Huxley talked about, where you actually embrace your servitude and you love it, and you just, you're in this mindset, ladies and gentlemen. Those that are not awake are in a mindset that you're free and you can do it. These people are crazy, you're free, you have all this. But if you really sat down and looked at it, you're really not free. And you have to understand why. You're indebted to your job, because without it, you're there. Forget it. Obviously, we know what happens without jobs, right? But worse than that is the dollars that you're paid are paid with debt created by the Federal Reserve fraud. I mean, this isn't a joke. I mean, and the Federal Reserve, the charter is going to end on the 21st of December, 2012. How pathetic is that? They plan this, ladies and gentlemen, and they will come in with a new currency. They'll come in with a new idea for the world government to make the world whole again, and everything's going to be beautiful, and we're going to give you, just like the United Nations said, we're going to stop war and famine and poverty. And all they've done since their creation is promulgate war, poverty, and famine. And now they're bringing that to the Western world, our nation. And slowly they were able to really devise a way so that you didn't really notice it. You tax them. It's like if they just had rolled out the tanks, then obviously everybody is awake. But if you do it slowly, stealthily, through legislation and regulation and taxation, and then the indebtedness of the currency on top of that. Larry P. McDonald came out with all of this information. I usually use him as a great example. He spoke about this on record in 1976. You can just please Google Larry P. McDonald, and talked about the deficits and where we were heading then. Of course, he was shot down by the Soviets on Korean Air Flight 007 after going on crossfire with Tom Braden and revealing that the Rockefellers, through the Council on Foreign Relations, are controlling the State Department and basically the foreign policy, moving towards a socialist, communist, fascist world government. Well, they don't advertise this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. That's why Truth Talk News is so important. And I pray that everybody else, of course, there are many of us doing this. I'm not alone. You can go to Truth Talk TV. There's many different venues for getting this information out. It's about the truth. So these 30 major U.S. companies spend more money lobbying than taxes. Now I'm going to go into this in details. This entire presentation I think will take a total from the beginning of the presentation to the end about, right now, from the beginning of this broadcast, about 15 minutes. Won't be much longer. Please tune in. Please listen to this information. This is critical that you understand where we are. I've talked about the 137 companies, the bow tie, that they're in the center, and everything radiates out from those 137 companies, 47 companies, excuse me, that control basically all commerce and finance in the world. Okay? When you identify this and who's owning this, and then we're being enslaved through the banking system, and when the currency has to be returned back to a constitutional currency. And they're going to fight this tooth and nail. Now, Andrew Jackson, routed out the Rothschilds. We have to rout them out again because that's who's controlling the Federal Reserve. The Rothschilds, the Loeb Company. I actually have the names of. Speaking of the Federal Reserve, I'll basically go over who owns the shares. I have. I'll give you the exact ownership information that I have here in this document, written by the late great Eustace Mullins, noted at the World Order, which is one of the most notated and documented on record proof of the New World Order. You want to call it a conspiracy, call it what you will. They've made that word to be like a joke. Okay, you understand? That's part of the social control. But it is a conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen. It is this elite group of people that have made a pact to work together to collectivize all the wealth in the world. Does that make sense? Haven't you seen movies about this? They do this all the time. They actually advertise their agendas. The X-Files, where the plane is crashed into the World Trade Center. Obviously, then the terrorists must have used that as a model. Well, yeah, I know. It's just over and over again, many, many things that you see in the media. Now, I went to film school, and I was totally asleep for many years, but I know cinema, okay? I know broadcasting and television, okay? Now, understanding as an awake person, looking back at what I learned, what I knew, what I thought, I see how people are manipulated by the medium, and there is mind control that is going on. I've talked about this in previous shows regarding especially television with the wave factor and the alpha wave state that you go into when you're watching some mindless television show, as opposed to something that requires thought or study or intel. Even television this requires much more use of your mind, ladies and gentlemen, just listening to what I'm telling you, than watching American Idol or any of these other entertainment shows that are put you into like a alpha wave state where you're very suggestive to images and thoughts and processes, where now you have to decipher and think about what I'm saying to try to make an analysis whether or not I agree or I don't agree or whatever. What I'm trying to say, it creates thought, critical thought, ladies and gentlemen. That is what they are trying to destroy. And by God, I don't know what else to say. But these corporations that have control of our commerce, for their profits, put people on the streets. It's gone over and over again. The wealth of the Rothschilds, it's been said, is acquired at the destruction of nations, and it's all here. It's all true. Now, when the Federal Reserve was proposed supposedly by J.P. Morgan, he was just a front for the Rothschilds. Okay, he was their agent, just like Alexander Hamilton was the agent for the first Bank of the United States that was put together, and of course, you have the importance of this is that These are the banks that are still, and the controlling interests of the shareholders are still the same, and here's who they are, okay? Between 1905 and 1910, the Tsar of Russia, Tsar Nicholas the Second, had sent more than $900 million to be deposited in 6 leading New York banks: Chase, National City, Guarantee Trust, J.P. Morgan, Hanover, and Manufacturers Trust. These were the principal banks controlled by the House of Rothschild through their American agents, J.P. Morgan, as I just mentioned, and Kuhn, Loeb and Company. These were also the 6 New York banks which bought the controlling stock in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York in 1914. They have held control of the stock ever since. Now, the names of the companies have changed, but they're all the same players. So now it's Citigroup, okay? Now you got J.P. Morgan Chase. You know, instead, manufacturers at one time merged with Hanover, and it was Manufacturers Hanover. I mean, they intermingle themselves, creating shell corporations out of the other things, but they all own the same interests. And they still do this to this day when they consolidate power. These banks are too big, as we know, and that's how they fail, but let's bail them out with the same very bankers. Now, I've reported many times before that the actual truth of the matter is that the banks are also part of the welfare system, so they like welfare. They make money on the debit purchases of all the people that are getting their either food stamps or assistance, okay? They actually have exorbitant fees. They've been caught doing this over and over again. Chase, Bank of America, because they're the only two that do it. And I forgot to mention, Bank of America is now in this mix here, which was originally the Bank of Italy. Okay? This is the cartel, the financial cartel. The New World Order is a real thing. It is an existence. It is an entity no different than a name of a corporation. However, it's a conglomerate of concerted efforts to obtain full control and dominance over all aspects of human life. That includes monetary, that includes what we have to eat, that includes all commerce, anything we have to trade, that includes our physical bodies as far as our health, that includes how many we should be, the culling of the population. And this isn't my, by the way, this isn't my opinion. This is my research has come to I'm just revealing their plans, their own white papers, their own documents that have been published through various organizations like the Club of Rome, and oh my God, I can go on and on about this, and the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations going together with the United Nations and their Genocidal Agenda 21 protocols, which if were fully put into place, would kill 1 billion people, ladies and gentlemen. But okay, all right. So listen, I worked a whole day, and I come home and I'm talking to you here. Why? Because it's that important that you share this information, learn this information, and like I say to every time, make your own tapes, do your own work. Do something that really means something. Realize that this is your whole world. You're in an aquarium, ladies and gentlemen. You're living inside this aquarium, and there's a whole world outside. And you're not seeing the world outside. You're only living the world inside of this aquarium, which is a controlled environment. And once you understand it's a controlled environment, you see things totally different. But it takes research. You have to dig. You have to dig deep. Now, so now you know how the Federal Reserve has been controlled by the Rothschilds and how they literally caused depressions and recessions, so you know who's at fault here. They've done it over and over again. When James Madison refused the Second Bank of the United States, the Rothschilds contracted the money supply, sound familiar, and caused a depression in 1837. They did the same thing after the Roaring '20s. Once we had the crash, they contracted the money supply, consolidating more wealth, more power. And put that money, that very money, behind Hitler, funding both sides of the war. And they did that with World War I. In fact, the Kaiser could not go to war without getting the Rothschilds' approval for the banking because they financed the wars. They make war.